Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jared Rand, and welcome to the Global Guided Meditation Call for Monday, October 26th, after 3 p.m. Eastern. We will be having a Time for Change call this Wednesday night at 9 p.m. If you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all. If you can't see God in all, you can't see God at all. All of us are so deeply consumed by the world every day, especially now. The moment we open our eyes in the morning, the mind kicks in, and we are flooded with all sorts of beliefs, emotions, and desires. It just comes rushing in. It can become very easy in this day and age to feel overwhelmed, lost, or confused. We are constantly dealing with a massive amount of information and social pressure every day. Perhaps with pressure with finances, relationships, love life, family, work, health problems are at the foundation. And then there's our newly found, continuously evolving technological relationships with the cell phone, internet, texting. We may spend half our day just trying to figure out how to get through it alive. This technological era we are in is so captivating that we can easily miss out on the connection with our amazing spiritual existence. That's why the effort has been so great on this planet to keep us diverted in our attention, keep our attention misdirected, so that we stay away from being within. If we were surrounded every day by people whose only interest was in achieving enlightenment, our world would be a very, very, very different. Yet we have chosen a planet where everyone is still deeply asleep to their divine enlightened nature. In fact, we are all so asleep that we don't even know that we are asleep. We're so asleep that we don't even know that we are asleep. Every human being is sleepwalking through this life, meaning that we are always plugged into the mind. The veil is so thick and the pattern is so deep that we need to use everything we've got to wake up. This means using everything you can find outside of you and inside of you. Any real ecstasy is a sign you are moving in the right direction. Don't let any prude tell you otherwise, St. Teresa of Avila. Use everything around you to find God, the higher self, the spirit, pure consciousness. It's all in the same. Use every conversation as a vehicle to listen to the divine. Use all your senses everywhere you go. Touch, taste, feel, hear, and even breathe in the smell of the divine. Use every moment of your free time to find deep, silent stillness and inner peace. You can connect deeper with the divine. Use the media and all that excessive advertising that is constantly dumped on you to find God. When you read something that jumps out at you, try to notice how it's spiritually messaged just for you. When you feel like you might be making some form of connection to God, breathe that feeling deeply into your body. Stop everything. Give this experience all that you've got, because it might not last long. Notice how the feeling resonates with what's going on in your life. Find the practical aspects, like how does this simple billboard advertisement give me the deepest guidance I'm needing in my relationships right now? There are no coincidences. God is already always around us. we only have synchronicity in this life. Everything is perfect and divinely aligned. The God source never, ever makes mistakes. When you're 100% devoted to finding the total alignment with the divine and everything around you, the magic will its way into you. And through this spiritual journey, which is unending, there may be one thing about the spiritual awakening process that is certain. If you want access to the most amazing spiritual experiences in this life, it is going to take everything you've got. The enlightened state is definitely not like anything you've experienced before. There are no more problems in your life anymore. There are only deeper and deeper and deeper connections with the divine. Enlightenment is not for the half-assed skeptical seeker, the protective pessimist, or the mind addict that is super smart intellectual. It's for that ordinary being who has devoted their entire heart and soul to something beyond this world. It's for that simple soul who wants to create the deepest, healthiest relationship with themselves and the God source. The biggest difference of all, perhaps, is that their connection with God is their highest priority all throughout the day. True love, my dear, is putting an ironclad grip upon the soft, swollen balls of a divine rogue elephant and not having the good fortune to die. Puppets. Quite an interesting statement. So, are we open to exploring our connection with the divine? Chances are that we're all probably wondering what's the right way and how to do it. Or are feeling hesitant, reluctant, or thinking maybe this week, maybe it's not the right time. There will always be super important things which we need to do. Yet the reality is that our souls have been waiting for real spiritual liberation for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes. And yes, we have been preparing for a profound spiritual experience forever. We're here to let go of everything and to find our real connection to the divine again. We've been learning major life lessons after major life lessons, killing the hard, tough inner soil inside of us, just so that one day our souls could find some higher enlightened state of being. We were all born to find some way home to ourselves, so that our mind is always free from all fear, resistance, stagnation, and separation. The enlightened mindset just happens when we return to the pure source of awareness that is behind the mind. The pure source of awareness that is behind the mind. When we discover the awareness behind every thought that we've been thinking or are thinking, we come closer to the most sacred intelligence in this universe. This is who we all truly are. The funny thing is that there's only one tiny thing stopping us from seeing, feeling, and knowing that God is here now. This is our own mind. The mind is so full of personal beliefs and ideas about life that there's not much room for anything else. It is overflowing so much that we have become blind to God. Watch out for the mind. It is the only thing stopping us right now. Try something this week. The next time you are in front of a mirror, look non-judgmentally into the mirror. Important. Look non-judgmentally into the mirror. Just notice, what do you see? Do you see how amazing, multidimensional, extremely beautiful you truly are? Or do you see all of your flaws and shortcomings? If the mind is not set aside, we can only see and hear what it thinks is good and bad. The mind can be extremely judgmental, and this is pure entertainment for the ego. We very much dislike being bored, so we cling to all sorts of opinions about right and wrong. As long as we are over-identified with and attached to opinions of good and bad, we cannot spiritually awaken. Just remember that all of this life is a grand play, and the nature of the mind is to create contrasts and comparisons. The mind doesn't like the gray middle path. When the mind is too empty, it seeks something juicy to fill it. Let go of filling up the mind and find the spiritual being that you are. This is in silence and stillness within. Interestingly, the heart is not judgmental at all. The heart only loves, accepts, and embraces what is. So don't trust the mind. Trust your heart instead. Be free of the mind and just remain in the heart. You will soon, in time, find the divine. And this is a miracle. The moment that you realize, that all of us realize, that there is no way to make a home, then this whole existence is home. Then wherever you are, you're at home. Course in Miracles. Every day, we get lost in a sea of duality. The pendulum is going to swing back and forth from being lost to being found, again and again and again. Our mind is not the only mind out there that is making a living hell or heaven out of each moment. Everyone is doing this. We are all blind to the divine. We simply have to learn, choose to learn, how to release all attachments and trust in God and surrender to its totality. When we take this risk to dissolve back into the source, which is that which is within us, these bodies, in each moment we naturally discover how everything around us is helping and guiding us to be free. The very good news is that we've got 1 billion more lifetimes to become enlightened. And God is never, ever going to stop loving us. The unpleasant news is that if postponed, we will miss out on the 1,000 opportunities heading our way today. There is no real end to this journey. We do not die. When you die, so truly, you do not die when you die. You leave the suit behind, of course. But the truth is the God that you are in that body, which never dies, is totally immortal. So truly there is nothing to be concerned about. When you realize you are an eternal being, what's there to be worried or fearful about? Now, you go to the playground. Remember when you're a kid, you go to the playground, you play, right? Then you get in the habit, you go to the playground every day and you play. But you didn't say, I want the playground, I want it to be mine. You would just come to the playground and play. Then you would leave the playground. It's pretty much no difference than when we leave the body. We're in the body, we play. And then one day we decide to leave the body, and the body is done, and we move on. It's like if you've ever remembered buying a new vehicle, right? You had an old one, right? And you used it. And then it was exciting when you got it. and then it kind of faded out. And so then you traded in a new one. It's no different. We leave the body, we get another one. We leave the body, we get another one. While in the body, we maybe discover who and what we are. We are all on this infinite journey. We are always safe and on the right path. We've made it this far, and we are still a very conscious and deeply sensitive being. This is a very good sign. Every single thing that we've created outside of ourselves, isn't it interesting? In a way we experience it, but in another way it distracts us. Most of us through this life, and many lifetimes, we think we come full circle. And then we leave the body and go, shoot. And then we go through our list of things that we wanted to do, but we never did do. So then guess what happens? And we say, well, I'm going to come back in another body. I'm going to get it right this time. And then we go through the journey, and we leave the body, and we go, shoot, I didn't do what I wanted to do. You see how it works? Until we go within, until we choose, each of us, to go within, stay within, focus on the breath, stay in the now, master the ego mind, then begin to move beyond consciousness. And then we are watching consciousness, we are watching ego mind, which eventually is no more. We become the true masters. And it's not a race. It's not who's going to win. This society that we're all in on this planet wants us to simply be a carbon copy, never an original. The strategy to create a mind in you is to go on repeating certain things continuously. And even if a lie is repeated continuously, it starts becoming a truth. And we forget that it was a lie in the beginning. The strategy to create a mind in each of us is to go on repeating certain things continuously, and even if a lie is repeated continuously, it starts becoming a truth. And then we forget that it was a lie in the beginning. Adolf Hitler started lying to the German people that all the misery of their country is because of the Jews. Now, this is such an absurd thing. Like somebody saying that all the misery of the country is because of bicycles. So if we destroy all bicycles, all the misery will disappear. In fact, the Jews were the very backbone of Germany. They had created all the wealth of Germany, and they had no other nation. So any nation, wherever they were, was their nation. They had no alternative in their minds. They could not betray. And they had been doing all the things that any other German was doing for the welfare of the country. But Adolf Hitler, in his autobiography, writes, it doesn't matter what you say, because there is no such thing as truth. Truth is a lie that has been repeated so often that you have forgotten that it is a lie. So the only difference, according to him, between the truth and a lie is that the lie is fresh and the truth is old. Otherwise, there is no difference. He seems to have some insight in it. For Christianity, Hinduism, Mohammedanism, and so on, these three religions repeat to their children, there is a God. Jainism, Buddhism, Taoism, three other religions say there is no God. The first three religions have a certain mind. Their whole life is filled with the idea of God, hell, heaven, prayer. The second three religions have no prayer because there is nobody to pray to. There is no God, and the very question does not arise. Half of the world is communist. They don't believe even in the soul of man. And every child is continuously told that man is matter. That when man dies, he simply dies. Nothing remains. That there is no soul, and consciousness is a byproduct. Now, half of humanity repeats it as the truth. Adolf Hitler cannot be accused of being absolutely absurd. It seems to be the case that if you repeat anything to people, they will slowly start believing it. And if it has been repeated for centuries, it has become a heritage. Our minds are not ours. And our minds are not young. They're centuries years old. 3,000 years old, 5,000 years old. That's why every society is afraid of anybody creating a doubt about the mind. So when you create a doubt in yourself about your mind, I want you to understand that it is not your mind. And your search should be to find your own mind. To be under somebody else's impact is to remain psychologically a slave. And life is not for slavery. Life is to taste freedom. There is something like truth, but with this mind, you can never know it, because this mind is full of lies. Repeated century after century after century, you can find the truth when you put this mind completely aside and look at existence with fresh eyes, like a newborn child. Then whatever you experience is truth. And if you remain constantly alert, not to allow others to interfere with your inner growth, there comes a moment when you become so attuned with existence, so one with existence. Only this experience is religious experience. It is not Jewish. It is not Christian. It is not Hindu. How can any experience be Jewish, Hindu, or Mohammedan? You never see its ridiculousness. You eat something and you say, it is delicious. But is it Christian or Hindu or Buddhist? You taste something and you say, it is sweet. But is it communist? Is it materialist? Or spiritualist? These questions are nonsense. It is simply sweet. It is simply delicious. When you feel existence immediately, without any mediator, with no mind given by anybody else to you, you taste something which transforms you, makes you enlightened, awakened, brings you to the highest peak of consciousness. A greater fulfillment, there is not. A higher contentment, there is not. A deeper relaxation, there is not. You have come home. Life becomes a joy, a song, a dance, a celebration. You have to wonder, identification, being identified. To be identified with something which you are not is the formation of the ego. To be identified with something which you are not is the formation of the ego. To be identified with something which you are not is the formation of the ego. The ego means to be identified with something you are not. Whatever one is needs whatever one is. needs no identification. You need not be identified with it. You are already it. So whenever there is any identification, it means with something else, something you are not. One can be identified with the body, with the mind, but the moment one is identified, one is lost to oneself. This is what ego means. This is how the ego is formed and becomes crystallized. Whenever you assert I, there is identification with something, with some name, with some form, with some body, with some past, with the mind, with thoughts, with memories. There is some deep identification. Only then can you assert I. If you are not identified with anything else and can remain with yourself, then you cannot say I. The I just drops. I means identity, and identity is the basis of all slavery. Be identified, and you will be in a prison. The identity itself will become your prison. Be non-identified. Remain totally yourself, and then there's freedom. So this is what bondage is. Ego is bondage, and egolessness is freedom. And this ego is nothing but to be identified with something that you are not. For example, everyone on this planet is identified with their name, and everyone is born without any name. Then the name becomes so significant that one can die for his name's sake. What is a name? But the moment you're identified, it becomes very meaningful, and everyone is born without any name, nameless. Or you take form, everyone is identified with one's own form. Every day you stand before your mirror. What are you seeing? Yourself? No. No mirror can mirror you. Just the form you are identified with. But such is the stupidity of the human mind that every day the form is changing constantly, but you are never disillusioned. When we were children, what was our form? When we were in our mother's womb, what was our form? When we were in our parents' seed, what was our form? Can you recognize? If a picture is produced for you, the egg in your mother's womb, will you be able to recognize it and say, this is I? No. But you must choose to have been identified with this egg somewhere back. You were born, and if the first scream can be reproduced for you, will you be able to recognize it and say, this is my scream? No. But it was yours, and you must have been identified with that. If a photo album can be produced before a dying man, a constant changing form, there is continuity, but still every moment a change. The body is changing every 7 years completely, totally. Nothing remains the same, not a single cell. Still we think, this is my form. This is me. And consciousness is formless. The form is just something outside that goes on changing and changing and changing, just like clothes. This identification is ego. If you're not identified with anything, with a name or with a form or anything, then where is the ego? Then you are, and still you are not. Then you are in your absolute purity, but with no ego. That's why Buddha called the self no self. He called it anatta, anatma. He said there is no ego, so you cannot even call yourself atma. You cannot even call yourself I. There is no I. There is pure existence. This pure existence is freedom. Sometimes when dark sides of the mind come up, it scares people. It is very difficult for them to accept that it is just the polar opposite of the bright ones. Some people say, I feel dirty and guilty and not worthy. I want to face all facets of my mind and accept them because I hear it is often said that acceptance is the condition to transcend the mind. The basic thing to be understood is that we are not the mind, neither the bright one nor the dark one. If and when we get identified with the beautiful part, then it is impossible to disidentify ourselves from the ugly part. They are two sides of the same coin. We can have it whole, or we can throw it away whole, but we cannot divide it. And the whole anxiety of man is that he wants to choose that which looks beautiful, bright. He wants to choose all the silver linings, leaving the dark cloud behind. But he does not know that silver linings cannot exist without the dark cloud. The dark cloud is the background, absolutely necessary for silver linings to show. Choosing is anxiety. Choosing is creating trouble for yourself. Being choiceless means the mind is there, it has a dark side, and it has a bright side. So what? What has it to do with you? Why should you be worried about it? The moment you're not choosing, all worry disappears. A great acceptance arises. That this is how the mind has to be. This is the nature of the mind. And it is not your problem because you are not the mind. If you were the mind, there would have been no problem at all. Then who would choose and who would think of transcending? And who would try to accept and understand acceptance? We are separate, totally separate. We are only witness and nothing else. But we are being an observer who gets identified with anything that he finds pleasant and forgets that the unpleasant is coming just behind it as a shadow. We are not troubled by the pleasant side. We rejoice in it. The trouble comes when the polar opposite asserts, then we are torn apart. But we started the whole trouble. Falling from being just a witness, we became identified. The biblical story of the fall is just a fiction. But this is the real fall. The fall from being a witness into getting identified with something and losing our witnessing. Just once in a while, try it. Let the mind be whatever it is. Remember, you are not it. And you are going to have a great surprise. As you are less identified, the mind starts becoming less powerful because its power comes from your identification. It sucks your blood. But when you start standing aloof and away, the mind starts shrinking. The day you are completely unidentified with the mind, even for a single moment, there is the revelation. The mind simply dies. It is no longer there. Where it was so full. Where it was so continuous. Day in, day out. Waking, sleeping, it was there. Suddenly, it is not there. You look around, and it is emptiness. It is nothingness. And with the mind, disappears the self. Then there is only a certain quality of awareness with no I in it. At the most, you can call it something similar to amness, but not I-ness. To be even more exact, it is isness, because even in amness, some shadow of the I is still there. The moment you know it is isness, it has become universal. With the disappearance of the mind, the self disappears. And so many things disappear that were so important to us, so troublesome to us. We were trying to solve them, and they were becoming more and more and more complicated. Everything was a problem and an anxiety, and there seemed to be no way out. I remind you of the story. The goose is out. It is concerned with the mind and your isness. The master tells the disciple to meditate on a kohen. A small goose is put into a bottle, fed and nourished. The goose goes on becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and fills the whole bottle. Now it is too big. It cannot come out of the bottle's mouth. The mouth is too small. And the kohen is that you have to bring the goose out without destroying the bottle, without killing the goose. Now it is mind-boggling. What can you do? The goose is too big. You cannot take it out unless you break the bottle. But that is not allowed. Or you can bring it out by killing it. Then you don't care whether it comes out alive or dead. This is not allowed either. Day in, day out, the disciple meditates, finds no way, thinks this way and that way, but in fact there is no way. Tired and utterly exhausted, a sudden revelation, suddenly he understands that the master cannot be interested in the bottle and the goose. They must represent something else. The bottle is the mind. You are the goose. And with witnessing, it is possible. Without being in the mind, you can become so identified with it that you start feeling you are in it. He runs to the master to say that the goose is out. And the master says, you have understood it. Now keep it out. It has never been in. If you go on struggling with the goose and the bottle, there is no way for you to solve it. It is the realization that it must represent something else. Otherwise, the master would not give it to me. And what can it be? Because the whole function between the master and the disciple, the whole business is about the mind and awareness. Awareness is the goose that is not in the bottle of the mind. But you believe that it is in it and ask everyone how to get it out. And there are idiots who will help you with techniques to get out of it. I call them idiots because they have not understood the thing at all. The goose is out, has never been in. So the question of bringing it out does not arise. The mind is just a procession of thoughts passing in front of us on the screen of the brain. We are an observer, but we start getting identified with beautiful things. Those are bribes. And once you get caught in the beautiful things, you're also caught in the ugly things, because the mind cannot exist without duality. Awareness cannot exist with duality, and the mind cannot exist without duality. Awareness is non-dual, and the mind is dual. So just watch. Watch for the solution. Just get back a little and watch. Create a distance between you and your mind, whether it is good, beautiful, delicious, something that you would like to enjoy closely, or it is ugly. Remain as far away as possible. Look at it just the way you look at a film. But people get identified even with films. You may see, now some people weeping, tears coming down. Nothing is happening. It is good in a movie house, it is dark. It saves them from feeling embarrassed. You see people crying and you see people weeping in the movie house. And then you say, there is only a screen and nothing else. Nobody is killed. There is no tragedy happening, just a projection of a film. Just pictures moving on the screen, and people laugh and people weep. And for 3 hours, they're almost lost. They become part of the movie. They become identified with some character. But see, if you are raising questions about people's reactions, then you cannot enjoy the film. But you can enjoy the film, but you don't care to cry. There's no enjoyment in it. You can see it as a film, but you don't care to become part of it. All of these people crying and tearing are becoming a part of it. You get identified with anything. People get identified with people, and then they create misery for themselves. They get identified with things, and they get miserable if that thing is missing. Identification is the root cause of our misery. And every identification is identification with the mind. So just step aside. Let the mind pass. And soon, you will be able to see that there is no problem at all. The goose is out. You don't have to break the bottle. You don't have to kill the goose either. Some people ask how best to deal with fear. How do you deal with it? They say it affects them voraciously. From a vague uneasiness or a knotted stomach to a dizzying panic, as if the world is ending. And they say, where does it come from? And where does it go? All of our fears are byproducts of identification. You love a woman, and with the love, in the same parcel comes fear. She may leave you. She has already left somebody and come with you. There is a precedent. Perhaps she will do the same to you. There is fear. You feel knots in the stomach. You are not, and you are too attached. You cannot get a simple fact. You have come alone in this world. You have been here yesterday, also without this woman, perfectly well, without any kinds, knots in the stomach. And tomorrow, if this woman goes, what is the need of the knots? You know how to be without her, and you will be able to be without her. The fear that things may change tomorrow, somebody may die, you may go bankrupt, your job may be taken away. There are 1,001 things which may change. You are burdened with fears, and none of them are valid, because yesterday also you were full of all of these fears unnecessarily. Things may have changed, but you're still alive. And man has an immense capacity to adjust himself to any situation. They said that only man and cockroaches have this immense capacity of adjustment. That's why whenever you find man, you will find cockroaches. And wherever you find cockroaches, you will find man. They go together. They have a similarity. Even in faraway places like the North Pole or the South Pole, when man traveled to these places, he suddenly found that he had brought cockroaches with him. And they were perfectly healthy and living and reproducing. If you just look around the earth, you can see man lives in thousands of different climates, geographical situations, political situations, sociological situations, religious situations. But he manages to live. And he has lived for centuries. Things go on changing. He goes on adjusting himself. There's nothing to fear. Even if the world ends, so what? You will be ending with it. Do you think you will be standing on an island and the whole world will end, leaving you alone? Don't be worried. At least you will have a few cockroaches with you. What is the problem if the world ends? I've been asked this so many times I've lost count. But what is the problem? If it ends, it ends. Does not create any problem because we will not be here. We will be ending with it. And there will be no one to worry about. It will be really the greatest freedom from fear. The world ending means every problem ending, every disturbance ending, every knot in your stomach ending. There is no problem. But everybody's full of fear. But the question is the same. The fear is part of this mind. The mind is a coward and has to be a coward because it doesn't have any substance. It is empty and hollow, and it is afraid of everything, and basically it is afraid that one day you may become aware of that. That will be really the end of the world. Not the end of this world, but you're becoming aware. You're coming to a state of meditation where the mind has to disappear. And that is its basic fear. Because of that fear, it keeps people away from meditation, makes them enemies of people like any one of us who are trying to spread something of meditation, some way of awareness and witnessing. They become antagonistic, not without any reason. Their fear is well-founded. They may not be aware of it, but their minds are really afraid to come close to anything that can create more awareness. That will be the beginning of the end of the mind. That will be the death of the mind. But for you, there is no fear. The death of the mind will be your rebirth, the beginning of really living. You should be happy. You should rejoice in the death of the mind, because nothing can be a greater freedom. Nothing else can give you wings to fly into the sky. Nothing else can make the whole sky yours. The mind is a prison. Awareness is getting out of the prison, or realizing it has never been in the prison. It was just thinking that it was in the prison. All fears disappear. We all live in this same world. But some have never felt for a single moment any fear, because nothing can be taken away from them. They can be killed, but they will be seeing it happening. So what is being killed is not them. It is not their awareness. The greatest discovery in this life, the most precious treasure, is of awareness. Without it, you are bound to be in darkness, full of fears, and you will go on creating new fears, and there is no end to it. You will live in fear. You will die in fear, and you will never be able to taste something of freedom. And it was all the time your potential. Any moment, you could have claimed it, but you never claimed it. It is your responsibility. I'll join you in the meditation, and I'll return to close us out. Take an easy breath in through the nose, and an easy and slow breath out of the mouth. Be still. Feelings are what make life extremely rich and juicy. They give our life dimension, create a more intimate and personal experience of reality. And our feelings enable us to heal ourselves as well as accept the infinite mystery of this life. For today, allow yourself to let down your protective shields with the world and explore how you really feel about yourself, others, and this world today. Give yourself permission to feel everything and anything you can. Invite in and explore every type of feeling that comes into your body today. Confront the feelings you have been avoiding and breathe deeply into them. Sit with them and simply feel them. Keep your mind and heart open to this rich, rewarding, egoless experience. This is your turn to be emotionally free. Trust your feelings. Stop resisting them and dive into each one with an open heart, full of curiosity, wonder, and courage. When you stop trying to manage and control your emotions, they will transform you from the inside out. Take this with you for the rest of the day, into the evening and night and the following morning. We will return here Tuesday, October 25th, 2022, 3 p.m. Eastern, to continue our global guided meditation call. And be good to yourself.